welcome to the Box Social. It is January 4th, 2015. Can't believe it's 2015. I'm SnipeyMcgee, also known as Shane Goin, and joined by Cosvak, aka Caleb Dodge.
Hi.
Welcome to the Box Social. Let's get started talking about some video games.
Video games, yay!
Ah!
I don't know how to start this.
I know, it's been a long time since we recorded last. Has it been 6 months?
It has
been that long?
It's been about 6 months. I think the last time we recorded was beginning of summer.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
2014 has been like the shortest year ever. I feel like I'm one of those old people. You know how old people always talk about like the years just go by so quickly?
Yesterday it was spring, and today we're in the middle of January.
Yeah, I'm getting that point. So, I don't know. It's kind of weird. One foot in the grave kind of feeling.
Yeah, but
Quarter of a century at this point. Old man.
I'm getting there.
What's the age difference? How old are you?
I'm 24.
Okay, all right. So yeah, you are almost there. I thought it was 1 year, right about. When's your birthday?
30th of October. Hi everyone.
Okay.
Find me on the streets.
By the way, if you need all the information, would you be able to list your social security number?
Oh yes,
and address.
Here's my home address. I'm pretty sure you can find all that on Google, to be honest. So,
fuck. So, what you been up to, man? What you been playing? Get this podcast off. Good start.
I think we should probably talk about probably one of the main grievances of 2014. One of the most hyped games that turned out to just cause the whole Ubi shit era of gaming, Assassin's Creed Unity.
Yeah, how about that?
Oh wow, that was a botched fucking launch right there.
Yeah, you and I both got it on PC, so I think we got it a little easier than everybody else. Like, less performance issues.
Especially since I also beefed up my machine too. So, like, I had a couple instances where I got stuck on walls floating in the air, and I would watch crowds of people descend into the ground. But I didn't have anything that was just super other than, getting stuck and crowds falling on the ground. I didn't get like the invisible face error that popped up consoles and stuff like that.
Yeah, I kind of wish I had gotten that. That looked really cool. I had less descending crowds and more ascending crowds to where it's like odd hover people. There was enough of that for it to be very noticeable, to where it's like you would be walking along and there's some dude that's like elevated 6 feet above the ground walking. It's so peculiar to see that at a distance, like this really powdered, well-groomed Frenchman marching along with everybody else except walking over their heads.
I would get a couple of those people walking through the streets, and when I would try to parkour, somehow I would run into them, and they would fuck up my parkouring.
I found a lot of them kind of like to where it's like there were the elevated stands to where people were selling goods or whatever. And I would find that people were usually hovering near those. Like, that seemed to be the trouble spot. People buying like fruits and veggies or whatever.
And they'd be like, yes, I will buy that tomato. It looks very good from this perspective up here, above the awning.
Oh my god. It causes me to fly. Yeah, that game was oddly buggy in kind of an entertaining way, but also I don't know how that game was released in that state. I mean, I kind of get it. Pressures from Ubisoft at large, pressures from investors in order to make sure there is a launch of a game like Unity. However, I thought that might, after playing it, I could see like Rogue being the main release as opposed to Unity, because while I haven't played Rogue, I haven't heard that many issues with Rogue. Most people that I've talked to seem to like it even more than Unity, if anything.
I've heard people say that it's just like it's super short and it's really tacked on. But like you said, you haven't played it and I haven't played it, so we can't really judge it for what it is, other than hearsay.
Yeah.
I kind of got that feeling. It was just like it was 4, but more of 4. But a lot of people like 4, and I'm one of those weird people that really don't like 4.
I don't think it's weird. I think it's up to whether or not the movement system bothers you. Like for me, Unity's movement system, like the parkour system, I guess. I'm not sure what the system would be labeled as, but that irks me. Well, in 4, I found it much more manageable because it was much more sparse. I didn't find myself butting heads against the controls in that game, and that may be just because I've played each one of them successively to where it's like I played all the mainline Assassin's Creed 1, 2, Brotherhood, Revelations, and then 3 and 4. That it didn't irk me as much as it did with Unity, to where I didn't find like going through windows or that sort of thing bothersome. While 4 was much more easier to manage and kind of put the emphasis more on ship combat or like open combat as opposed to stealthful movement.
I didn't play 3 at all, and I played a bit of Revelations. I didn't play any of Brotherhood. So I was pretty out of limbo and out of sync with the Assassin's Creed series when I jumped in on Unity. I mean, I did play some of 4 because I got my hands on a PS4 during the summer, and I hated the movement system and the stealth system. I thought it was just trash because it was all just kind of like, okay, you walk up to the wall, don't take a step out from the wall, and there's no real like lean and cover system except it just kind of happens instead of like a button press. And I enjoyed the improvements. I mean, the changes they did with the system, because they got the Splinter Cell guys to work on like the cover system and the last known position stuff, which I thought that game really, really needed. It needed a more robust stealth system, because the stealth system in those games before, it wasn't really a stealth system, was don't get seen or else you have to go stabby with a lot of people. You got to stab them without them knowing that you're stabbing them.
Yeah. I feel like Unity had the issue, though, unlike Conviction, to where it's like it's clearly took that cover system from. Like, Conviction had really natural enemy placement. It had much better enemy patrols. I felt like that's a hard thing to nail, to where it's something that bothered me on the outset of Unity. Going into the while I appreciated Unity's emphasis on a more open Hitman style mission, where it's like you have to kill a guy inside of this manor house that's filled with guards and has alarms on various levels. The emphasis on that kind of like level design is really cool, because it's much more open. It's much more kind of like it's much more open world. It's more Grand Theft Auto kind of style, but at the same time leaning to the strengths of the Assassin's Creed stealth. The issue is that I didn't feel like enemy placement or enemy awareness was up to snuff with like the Splinter Cell series, and I didn't feel like I had as much control over my character as I did with Sam Fisher at any given time. Like there was too much momentum. It was too unpredictable, to where it's like trying to round a door frame or something to take someone out that's maybe past just using a quick time like instant assassination, to where that was made difficult. And that's kind of hard. It's just it's more of a feel.
Yeah, because the Assassin's Creed games are all about movement and parkour, and that parkour system has never really worked ace ever.
Certainly.
I mean, they did give the addition of the parkour up, parkour down buttons, which I thought was pretty nifty idea, because most of the time you would end up just kind of like jumping out in the middle of nowhere instead of having like controlled like descent. Which, so sure, I used that a lot. I thought that was really cool. A lot of people, like a lot of criticism it gets, is they took out the ship combat, they took out the store upgrades, and as much as I liked, the store upgrades and stuff like that, and the ship combat's okay, but I didn't really miss the ship combat that much, probably because I didn't really like Black Flag that much, and I didn't really play 3, so
you weren't missing anything with 3.
Yeah. So I never really got to enjoy those different kind of gameplay mechanics. So I thought, oh, cool, they're going back more towards like 1 and 2, which are the games that I played a lot and I really enjoyed.
I feel like 1 and 2 had more of the at times ambience of like a Prince of Persia, to where you would go into these kind of dungeons, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word, but you know what I mean. To
Yeah.
where it's like swing on a lever, like real quick platforming segments, and I felt like Unity didn't really have those to trade off for the lack of the naval combat. I didn't want naval combat in Unity. I'm just saying that was an additive to the formula with Black Flag that made it more than the typical Assassin's Creed. That was its differentiating factor, was the naval combat. And Black Flag, I also felt like I would be interested to see how you feel about Black Flag now that you've played Unity, going back and playing that game. Because out of the two, even though I like the ascend and descend parkour movement, I felt like basic actions like going through windows was troublesome. Even though they had a pull like left trigger in order to enter a window, I felt like that didn't work when I needed it to work. I felt like hurried movement, like to where it's like frequently you're being chased or something, and getting into the position that you need at the time you need can be frustrating. I almost felt like that would be aided by a reduction of clutter in the environment, to where there were too many like imagine if you were in the game development software, and it's like how many landing points you have on various objects in the environment, to where it's like I felt like my character would be better suited to scoot over, to slide over most items, as opposed to landing on them as though they were an individual like flag platform and then leaping to another. I felt like that game would have been better if it had had another 6 to 12 months in order to streamline that environment, to enable the ascending and descending parkour features in a better fashion. Like I would have felt like fleeing from bad guys was better, or the quick mobile assassination was better. Instead, I felt like, while I liked those facets of it, it felt clunky in comparison to past Assassin's Creed.
I guess yeah. I don't know. Like I felt like when I played 4 that it was really clunky, just because the stealth mechanic was hide and bush, and that was about it. Like literally, the breaking point of that game was there was a side objective to get through and save like some guy that was locked up, like an oracle, some shit like that. And the bonus objective was get through without being spotted. And try as I fucking might, there was no fucking way I could get through that area without being spotted. Maybe I just suck at video games. I don't know.
No, I think Ubisoft sucks at enemy placement.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like those games eventually kind of fall victim to their scope.
Like there was these 2 guards that would patrol around like this area, and you would think, oh, they have a haystack right there. I could double assassinate those guys when they stop by the haystack. That's obviously why it's there. Nope, they're too far away for you to kill when you're in the haystack. So it's like, what the fuck is this haystack here for?
Well, I felt like in game development, I think you also need to observe the weaknesses of the game that you have presented, like in the systems, to where it's like if you are conscientious of that fact, I think that helps you make a better game. And I feel like with Black Flag, they tailored most of the objectives toward combat, and it had not quite the momentum-based combat of Brotherhood, but it had a much higher action combat emphasis, more swashbuckling, as opposed to Hitman style stealth or Splinter Cell style stealth. You know what I mean? Like most of the time, you had some follow missions, but those were in comparison to the main missions where you were allowed to just go balls out, 6 pistols, dual saber kind of combat experiences. Those were lightened. So I don't know. I felt like Black Flag kind of flowed better for that reason. Like it lended itself more to its strengths than Unity did. I'm not quite sure where Unity's strengths lie. Like I felt like combat wasn't that good. I didn't feel like, while I liked the addition of the stealth systems and I would like to see them evolve that more, and that's a move in the right direction, I didn't feel like it worked well enough for me to really use it more than smoke bombing and stealth blading most people.
Yeah, I feel like if they took Splinter Cell and put it into Assassin's Creed and just made it that, but somehow still incorporated a parkour system that worked really well, like a pseudo parkour system, that would be where that game needs to head. Like, if they want to stay as a stealth kind of title, they need to do that for me to be able to stay on board with it being a stealth game, or else it's just kind of a shit action game to me. But the other thing they could probably take a lesson from Splinter Cell is the co-op balancing when you're doing the co-op missions in that game. Because we did a couple of missions ourselves. We did a handful of missions, and when it was just us two, we actually had some pretty cool in sync movements that we do. Like when I was stabbing a dude in the back, you saw another guy was coming up, and he was about to spot me, and you jumped overhead of me, and then flying stabbed the guy.
I think co-op is like the best representation of that game. Like, it has all the clutch kind of like activities that make that game exciting and kind of lend itself to that the movement and combat systems. After playing those co-op missions, it totally brought me back to like Chaos Theory, even Blacklist to some extent, where it's like, the synchronization of you doing something and then me kind of like assisting, right? Like, I'm gonna take out this guard that's gonna see you while you kill that other guard. That's so fucking smooth. I would love to see what they do with that in the future.
Yeah.
Like, I think that all the fundamentals of the game just kind of need to be like improved, to be smoother, to be more intuitive, to be less hitchy. Where it's like, I felt like movement was always kind of slightly inhibited, to where it's like the right combination of commands could have been used. However, I don't feel like that's the best gameplay experience. It should have been more intuitive. And it's weird that I want it to be more dumbed down or more streamlined, more simplified than how it is. But it definitely needs it in the stealth flow. God, yeah, man. Those stealth missions are great. We did like, what, 5 or 6 of them? Yeah,
we did a good chunk of the stealth missions together. And then you ran off to play, I think it was probably Warlords of Draenor.
Yeah, okay. Warlords of Draenor is pretty awesome. I don't know, like, I'm kind of back into World of Warcraft and into the flow of World of Warcraft again. It's not going to win somebody back. Like, I don't know, it's up to each individual player whether or not they are into the World of Warcraft experience going forward. I feel like this is the most streamlined, this is the most engaging World of Warcraft experience that I've had since vanilla. It combines a lot of really addictive features, like login every day. Like, have you played I don't know, I'm not particularly into mobile gaming, but have you ever played like a mobile game to where it's like you felt like you needed to log in every day in order to complete an objective, or is that just something that's totally out of your wheelhouse?
Mafia Wars, back in the day, I would have to pop online. It was the reason why I got a Facebook, because all my damn friends were like, dude, you need to get Facebook, play Mafia Wars so you can send us energy packs every day. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I think for the first couple of years, I didn't even have a real profile picture on my Facebook wall.
Oh my God, when was this? Was this like 2010? Like, Mafia Wars is going kind of far back. 2009?
I want to say 2007, 2006.
Jesus.
This is the part of the show where we're just like, oh, I remember back in my day.
God,
games
so
came
old.
on stone blocks.
Oh no.
We played hoop stick. I think we can check off old man jokes for the show today. I think we've gotten 2 solid ones in so far.
Yeah. You get it, like the some kind of impetus to get you to log in every day. Like, I feel like World of Warcraft finally has that in your stronghold, to where it's like when you arrive on Draenor, they do. I feel like they played a lot of BioWare games. BioWare games are about empowerment for the most part. They're you can see the tropes carried through most of them, like Mass Effect, Dragon Age. Doesn't matter. You are always going to be an above the law sort of position, to where it's like people respect you. And World of Warcraft kind of copies that, to where it's like when you arrive on Draenor, you establish a base. In this base, as you're walking around, all the NPCs salute you. They call you commander. As you complete quests, you obtain new members to join your garrison. These members can then be sent out on quests on their own, which is why you log in every day. You expend supplies in order to send them off on a quest, which may give them experience to level them up as your individual minions, or you might send them on a quest in order to get you new gear. Each one of those will have a percentage of success, and each one of your companions will have different pros and cons that enable them to accomplish certain objectives better than others. Each one of those is randomized, so it's like as you get an item for a quest reward that could be of epic quality, it could be of normal quality. It kind of fluctuates. Usually it's rewarding. On top of that, as you proceed through the game, you are receiving blueprints in order to build new buildings in certain slots on your garrison and improve the size of your garrison at the same time. It's really engaging to log in for like 15 minutes a day, and in order to kind of like, you feel like you're making progress even when you can't play it that day. You know what I mean? Like, Thursday I'm busy, but I can log in for 10 minutes and get something done. On top of that, the PvE content's fantastic. PvP, at least on the servers that I've played so far, has been really consistent. It's been frustrating when you get ganked, but at the same time, it's extremely satisfying when you're able to take on like 2 guys by yourself. You know? And for some reason, like a game like an MMO, kind of, it gives me more of an adrenaline rush than most shooters while engaged in combat. I guess it's because of the fact that you've invested so much into your character, and not only that, but you've spent so much time in like making him the best warrior that he could be. And so it's like when you get defeated by another warrior, you kind of feel like you failed more than in a shooter. It's like, oh man, my build isn't there, the quality of my play isn't there. It's like it's a multitude of facets. I find that really engaging.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff you're talking about sounds like a lot of stuff that was rumored like way back, like second expansion. We're talking about doing this kind of like phasing in stuff. Even like kind of sort of the same thing with guild castles. I guess that was one big topic. I'm not sure if those have been put in or not. Last time I played was Lich King, so probably like 2 years ago.
Well, you remember like when you were you Horde or Alliance?
I believe we were Horde at the time.
There was always like an instance portal. One of the most famous one is in Stormwind, but I think there was one in Orgrimmar that kind of it was a portal that was locked behind a gate, and that portal, I think would have led into like a housing district. So it's kind of like they've been toying around with the idea of player housing, and they did a little bit of that in Mists of Pandaria, where you owned a farm. This is much more in-depth than that. It is you running a fortress, an ever-growing fortress that expands to allow for more plots for you to place buildings, and each one of those buildings can upgrade with a specific cost. I feel like that's really cool. It's a nice way to see your impact. On top of that, from Wrath of the Lich King, they've carried over this phasing, which means that for the PvE questing, it is very linear. You're going from 0% completion in a zone to 100% completion. However, the zone may be very different in certain areas, certain regions, as you progress to that 100%, where you feel like you do have an impact on a world. And those are accentuated, but really well done in-engine cutscenes. Like World of Warcraft has, they've gone for a comic book approach, and that kind of makes its appearance more ageless than others. Not saying that it's immune to its graphical like faults or deficiencies, but
that game's like what is it now, like almost a decade old? 12
10?
It's
10 years or damn, it's up there. But it looks good. Like it looks good. It's satisfying. I haven't done that many dungeons, but the ones that I've played so far I've really liked. I don't know, I think it's great. It's you hear that a lot when a new MMO expansion comes out, but this is a good time to start playing World of Warcraft if you've always been interested. And if you are at all interested in looking to hop back in, it seems like a good time to do it. I really like it so far. I've had a good time.
I mean, I've gotten a couple of Blizzard account almost hack attempts, so that means that the crowd is getting big again.
I think they're up to like 10 million subscribers, which I think their peak was like during Wrath of the Lich King era. I want to say it was like 12 million or 13 million or something ridiculous like that. But then being back up to 10 million is still...
That's a really big feat, because it was dipping down pretty low there during the lull time between this expansion and Lich King.
I know I didn't play that much of Pandaria personally, and it's not because I thought the content was bad. I just didn't feel... I don't know. I just wasn't into it at the time.
Not a big Kung Fu Panda fan, I see.
Yeah, I mean, it had a consistency to it more so than like, I don't know, just labeling it as Kung Fu Panda. But it was well done. Like, I liked the PvE content in that expansion, and I liked the PvP that it played. It just didn't hook me. I don't know why. Like, objectively, I could look at it and go like, yeah, that's pretty well designed and well paced, but not as much as Warlords of Draenor. I think it's kind of a nice return to Warcraft form. This is going back. I'm sure that for people that actually care about the mythos and lore of World of Warcraft, it's kind of frustrating for them to like flip something like time travel or resetting the events of old. But it's kind of cool going back to like a Warcraft 2 pre-Warcraft 3 era. And you know, it's orcs versus humans primarily. That's pretty rad. I like that. That's kind of the Warcraft I like, as opposed to it being on some misty island run by a bunch of pandas.
So, if you haven't played in a while, you should play it. And don't they have a deal going on right now where it's like if you get like a level 90 character, like they did with Death Knights, it's like, hey, if you want, you play this character that's automatically level 50, you can get them at 60 with and just doing like 2 hours of questing.
Yeah.
And then you're ready to jump into the next expansion.
Yeah, you get a level 90 boost. I used that for one of my characters just so I could try it out. That character is now pretty much my main going forward. You can create a character, then select to boost them to 90. Through that, it opens up a series of tutorials that roll out the combat abilities of your class between levels like 90 and 91, maybe 92. It's really well done. So it's kind of like, I think anybody that like maybe played it back in vanilla, they could come back to this. And I could imagine like jumping into a level 90 character would be extremely intimidating. But they've done a lot to streamline talent systems, to streamline the amount of abilities that each individual player has. Where it's like, instead of having like broadly like 30 abilities they would use in combat, they've streamlined it down to like 15 or something, to where it's like, these are the abilities you need to use most often. We're going to empower those and cut the rest. That makes it a lot easier to kind of familiarize yourself and get comfortable with the new character. And the fact that they roll that into, you complete like 4 objectives, and we're going to unlock the next few abilities for you. I think that works really well. And so it's a great way for people to acclimate to World of Warcraft if they haven't played in a long time. It's a good starting off point.
All right.
Yeah, exciting stuff. I know.
Exciting things. Sorry, we both kind of just woke up like a little bit ago, and we've been working on our waking up.
It's tough,
schedule
man.
Here.
Unfortunately, I've coupled it with espresso and bourbon, so I'm getting started.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm getting the morning started off right.
I mean, if you're gonna go, you're gonna get hyped up and drunk at the same time. I think you should play A Little Evil Within, which has been one of the things that I've been playing for a couple of months now.
Did you finish
finally
that?
Got through. I did finally finish it after picking up and hardcore playing it for about a week, and then having to put it down for finals, and then picking it back up.
So what'd you think? How did it compare to Shinji Mikami's other games?
I wish I could like it more. It's one of those kind of titles where like you hate it and you love it, but you want to love it some more. But there's these little fucking tingly bits on it that are hanging off and dripping, and it's like losing an eye. Like, but I like you. It's basically the Butterface of his games.
Oh no.
Yeah. Like it starts out fantastically. You think it's gonna be one of those kind of like a stealth kind of mix of hiding and combat, which is kind of what I really wanted to have, is that kind of experience where you're hiding and having combat about the same time. Because right now in like horror games, it's either you're shooting stuff or you're running away from shit and hiding from it. And if you ever watched like the E3 demos when it first came out, it looked like it was going to be like a combo of that, where it starts off where you're being hung upside down, but the guy with the axe, and he's chopping people into bits. But then like after that point, it just basically starts accelerating and doesn't slow down. And there is some obvious kind of weird bits that just don't feel right. Like midway through the game, like you're going through like combat zone, the combat zone, the combat zone. there's this point in this game where you're wandering around the mansion of like the main bad guy. You wander around his place, and every once in a while he'll just like fucking appear. And you'll have to run and hide underneath like a bed or a locker or something like that. And that's the only time that mechanic gets used in that game whatsoever. Because if he touches you, it's an instant kill.
I've heard about that. He's kind of like a specter or something. Like I remember in the E3 demonstrations. That must have been the part of the game that they were showcasing.
Yeah, and I think if more of the game was like that, that part wouldn't feel so out of place, and it wouldn't make people very decisive about that part of the game. Like that chapter, I believe it's chapter 10, is the super decisive part of that game where it's like either you like it or you fucking hate this game because of that one bit. But the rest of the game is not like that at all. Like after that part 2, it just even ramps it up even fucking like crazier, where you end up like in a city and it's all messed up and torn apart. Like literally there's a part where like the villager zombie dudes pull up in a Humvee with an MG and they start shooting at you with the MG, and you have to like use your 4 fucking bullets that you have to shoot them out.
All right. That sounds like Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, it basically just turns into Resident Evil 4 after a while, but with even less ammo. Unless you do what my strategy is in all those in those games is upgrade your pistol like all the way to the best like damage and the best like head blowing up capacity, which is weird because the tiers of how you upgrade all your guns is pretty weird. Where like if you get a headshot, that's not an instant kill every time. You'll just blow off part of their head, and you might have to shoot them like 2 or 3 times in the head to get a headshot.
But it doesn't feel like a Resident Evil 4 or 5 to where it's like suddenly big, mutated, slightly insectoid thing grows out of the spinal column.
No, it doesn't do that. Which, I don't know, I kind of feel disappointed about that, because that added a little more tension to the game. It's like, I don't know if I want to do a headshot. It's like, you're going to fucking headshot everything you see. In this game, though, you have like a damage, you got your range, you got your ammo capacity, you got your reload. But then you have a critical bar at the bottom, and that's your head explodey bar that you have to level up, which I think is kind of weird. And I should also mention too that this whole game
is that like an experience bar? I'm sorry, so you get to 100%, and that's like level 1 head exploding, and then it's like level 2 head exploding?
I should probably explain there's so much shit thrown in this game at once that I feel like I just need to point by point explain how this game works. Because they try to add a lot of things, and not a lot of them get handled well. I guess this part does, which is the leveling up system, where you go around and you find basically green jars of goop. Okay. It's like you even call it like green gel. That's what they call it, but it looks like brain goo. So I just call it brain goo all the time when I pick it up. But you use the brain goo to go to a level up station, which is like this big machine that fits on your head and shoots needles into your brain. And somehow that adds another pocket onto you so you can have more bullets while you're walking around.
Cool.
So there's a leveling up system to the game. I guess it's incorporated pretty well. But yeah, it's very actiony. That you barely have any ammo for a lot of the game too. But somehow, if the right management of headshots and just being able to use melee weapons and traps, it just makes you think more on your feet. So, like, you'll walk into a situation, you'd be like, oh, fuck yeah, I got, like, 10 bullets. I can take out anything in a boss. And then the next, like, 2 segments, you're walking around with maybe, like, 3 bullets. 3 or 4, maybe a full clip. But even sometimes, I'll walk into a room or, like, a zone area, and I'll have, like, 3, maybe 4 handgun shots and a shotgun shell. And if I was lucky, I had a grenade. And it'd be like, fuck yeah, I can take this. Which is weird.
That sounds pretty awesome.
The game
so far.
The game makes you feel very, very tense. But there's these very big flaws. Like the biggest flaw is that stealth system I was talking about. Like there's a boss fight in like it looks like it's a parking garage. And you fight this giant like monster with his eye. And supposedly that's a stealth fight. But you start out behind a pillar, and if you move out from that pillar, you're instantly spotted, and it just charges you all the time. So I thought you just shoot the fuck out of it and you win. That was the boss fight. But it turns out you actually have to stealth it. But yet I could still beat it by just like just going balls out, just picking up all the ammo I could, and then shooting at it the whole time. But at that time, my character was so beefed up because I looked in every nook and cranny for all the damn green gel that I could do something like that.
Does it lean heavily on the stealth system? Is that something that's a requirement for most stages?
Yeah. And it's just so badly incorporated. And the other thing, too, is like all the character models and the bosses look really cool, but all the boss fights are just fucking awful. Like when they're put into play, like there's one boss that reoccurs. It's like kind of like the spider lady, and she's only really affected by fire. And most of the time, you think you can just run away from it, and that's usually the main tactic. You try to light on fire, run away. Light on fire, run away. Light on fire, run away. But supposedly you can kill it on the last encounter, which I don't fucking know how that's possible. There's another fight too where you're in like a burning barn, and there's this big like spectral made out of like blood droplets, and you have to fight that. And you can shoot it, but it doesn't do anything, and it spawns villagers. So you got to shoot all these villagers. You have like 3 bullets, and it spawns like 5 villagers on you. They're like, well, fuck.
Do you have like a melee kill that handles that?
There is a type of melee kill, but it's kind of like a broken part of the game that you have to figure out to take advantage of. So in Resident Evil 4, flashbangs are basically God if you know how to use them right, because they'll kill the head sprouty things instantly if you use a flashbang, and you also can just kick everything out of sight and shoot it. In Evil the Evil Within, you get this crossbow, which is kind of like the crossbow in Dishonored, where you have a bunch of different kind of bow types, like bolt types you can have, and one of them was a flash bolt. And with the flash bolt, if you shoot on the ground, all the monsters act kind of dazed, and with the lighter, like the humanoid-looking ones, if you crouch and do the stealth thing and walk up right in front of them, you can stealth kill them right in front of them. Usually you only can do that from behind and like stab on the back of the head. And this one, you just takes the knife and goes right up through the jaw. And you can upgrade that from like 2 seconds to 3 seconds, all the way up to like 10 seconds. So you could clear out a whole room with a flash bolt and you just stabbing everybody in the face. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Cool. That kind of sounds like cheap way that I kill enemies in like Assassin's Creed Unity, to where it's drop a smoke grenade and then go nuts.
Yeah. It comes back to just how badly implemented the stealth system is. Like, I like the fucking stealth in a game. Like, if there's a stealth element, I'm gonna use the shit out of it because I like to conserve all of my ammo for a boss fight. And there's some areas where like it kind of works pretty well, but not awesomely. Like, I still abused how broken the system was. Like late game, you're going through a broken apartment building, and there's this enemy that'll spawn hands that come out of the ground, and they're an instant kill as soon as they grab you. So you basically got to stealth that to get past. And there'll be times where I'll get spotted. I'll run out of a room, jump through a window, jump over a wall, and then back through, and there'll be like a hole there, and I can just pull out the sniper rifle and just get headshots while they're trying to figure out how the fuck to jump through a window.
Right.
Bits of the stealth system are broken. Some of the enemies are a bit broken. And
So it feels like you're kind of cheesing your way through encounters.
Yeah, it's not like, I completed this room by just pure wit and figuring out how things go. It's like, I kind of cheated to get through this bit. And
it kind of feels like at sometimes to where it's like this encounter wasn't designed properly, to where it's like the mechanics that they want you to implement it's not something that you're going to like utilize during this encounter. You're actually going to try to break the game knowing like, you know how the game works, you know how the game functions. It's like, if you jump through that window and use your sniper rifle, then it's like they're going to be kind of like bottlenecked into coming at you, if they can even get through the window.
Yeah, exactly. There's also there's some cheap enemies too. Like I think Chapter 4 introduces a purely invisible enemy that you can barely see. The only way you can figure out where they are is by the shit moving on the ground, which sounds cool. But in practice, it's the most infuriating fucking thing in the world, since you only have 3 bullets to kill a thing. And half the time, I kind of ended up just kind of remembering where they were placed, and then having to get like an explosive dart, which is another dart that you get like prepped and ready, plant it at the door, and then so when they open the door, they get hit by the explosive thing. Half the time they're not fucking dead after that. So I got to walk up and just kind of lay bullets into them before they can get back up. You also you don't get a laser sight with any of the weapons except for the crossbow. So a lot of times too, I would back myself into a corner with just like a normal harpoon bow, which is another bow arrow that you get, and just wait for the laser to like come in closer, because then I knew the enemy was right on top of me, and just launch it and then pin them to a wall. But yeah, if I would have to go and be like, how would I rate the game? I would give it probably like a 3, maybe a 4 out of 5. Like I would love to love the game more, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And
at least it doesn't feel like it's totally inconsistent like Resident Evil 6.
Which I still have to play. But by having the 3 broken down storylines, I can see already how inconsistent the game is going to be.
Well, I mean, you played Resident Evil 5, right? Resident Evil 5 definitely harkened in like a transition from that game from being like anything close to survival horror to more of an action game. 6 is like, it's going along that line to where it's like, this is much more of a QTE fest, much more of an action game, less about anything scary or atmospheric. I'm glad at least it maintains that tone, unlike Resident Evil 6. It doesn't divert in such a harsh way. So that's something. It maintains more of the purity of being a horror game, if a little broken and half-assed.
Yeah, I mean, you were gonna call the horror game. I wouldn't call it like, ooh, that's a spooky kind of horror game. It does tension phenomenally. If you want like to be tense and to be like, shit, what am I gonna do? That's definitely the game for you. It gets you kind of just like, oh fuck, what am I gonna do kind of game. But it's not like, oh shit, I just shit myself kind of game. From how scary.
Yeah. That's cool. Like, as far as like tense games lately that I've played, if we're gonna segue into another one, it's Elite Dangerous, which has been that's been an interesting beta to launch. The game feels like it is a very broad.
You should probably explain
also
what the fuck Elite Dangerous is, because I actually never heard about this game until I saw you playing it one night, and I was like, dude, what the fuck is that?
Okay, Elite Dangerous is a space sim. It's based off of the Elite series, a series that I never played. Then I guess had the largest player base in Europe, more so than the United States. It wasn't so much of a wing commander. It's much more like, I guess, closer to a free space, if people know what that is. More dependent on trading. It's more dependent on like the impetus is on you in order to. It's up to your goals. What do you want to be? Do you want to be a bounty hunter? Do you want to be essentially a space trucker? Do you want to throw yourself in with a specific faction? Why? I guess it's kind of like very old school role playing in a way, but in a space setting. And Elite Dangerous is the modernization of that. It was a Kickstarted game that has come to fruition, is now fully released. And it operates not quite as an MMO, but it is a multiplayer-based space sim that gives you the entire galaxy. That's 4 billion individual star systems that you have access to.
So we're talking almost like Eve level of like systems.
Larger
than that. Holy shit.
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, I think this is the largest running simulation of a galaxy that there's ever been. You could not see everything in this game. Ever. You couldn't see probably a quarter. You couldn't see a tenth. This is all based on their procedural generation, which is something that I suppose in the earlier Elites, this is a series that I never played. This is my first dive into Elite.
Okay.
I think it's cool. Like, I'm into space shit. Like, I'm into starfighters and that sort of thing. So it's like, I dove in. This game is, I don't know. I don't see the impact of the simulation yet. And it's kind of weird. You start off in a basic space vessel, and you can go to bulletin boards within individual star systems.
Okay.
Like you'll dock at a space station, you'll go to the bulletin board, and it'll be like, oh hey, yeah, we need somebody to run alcohol from one system to another. You can accept that job. They'll place the alcohols in your cargo. You fly it to the following space station. You get money. It's really boring. You can make a lot of money that way. You're just jumping across the galaxy, being a delivery man or a trucker.
But I like to shoot things, sir.
That's what I like to do as well. So I went for a different path. I started to fly around the systems without having a specific objective. I would come across unknown signal sources. And when I came close to those signal sources, then frequently I was pulled into like kind of bullshit randomly generated events to where it's like, you run across a trader or some pirates, and I'd handle them.
Yeah.
Then I got more into going into resource sites to where it's like you'd go into an asteroid belt that's orbiting around a planet like the rings of Saturn. While there were other players and some NPCs that were mining out asteroids, there were also pirates that were littering the system. And I would kill them and collect bounties.
Okay.
The unfortunate part is that that's what most of it is. Like, you could occasionally come across a player that has decided to make his money killing the miners and taking their money, or taking their resources and then selling them on the black market. So they would accrue a bounty of which I could enforce. But it doesn't have enough to really engage you. Like, yeah, it's like I've gone from having a Sidewinder, which is the basic starting ship, to an Eagle, to a Viper. Each time getting larger, more armament, faster vessels. Maybe a little less agile, but...
Alright.
Yeah. I just don't feel like the need to do a whole bunch of shit in that game. Like, it's got all the systems in place to where it's like, if they were to expand this into something to where it's like you have a large central story for each faction, you have really engaging, really dynamic manhunts for choosing a bounty hunter as like kind of like your main profession or the main job of choice. Like, it doesn't have anything to hook you on that level. So instead it kind of turns into a multiplayer sandbox where everybody's kind of mining to get a better vessel, or people are pirating to get a better ship, or people are bounty hunting like myself in order to get, I don't know. I'm comfortable with the Viper, so I don't feel the need to progress past that point, even though it's inevitable. It's a game that plays really well. It's a game that looks gorgeous. I mean, the scope of the galaxy it's staggering. Like, it's got so much cool shit, but at the same time, because they went for the broad, that on the narrow end, to where it's like you're looking towards like the moment to moment, what am I supposed to do next? Not super engaging. So it's a game that I'd like to keep my eye on for the next 12, 24 months, whatever, going forward, to see like their next expansions. I think it could be really interesting at that point, but right now it's kind of hard to want to get back into it.
There's a lot of potential out there, and I'm guessing a lot of the bounty stuff is player based. So the player miners, like, they put up the bounties, and you're like, oh sweet, so somebody like you comes in. You collect that bounty.
No, that's automatic.
Oh, okay.
Unlike Eve, to where it's like somebody kills an enemy, a player, an unarmed player or defenseless player, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They get a bounty for that. That's a flat bounty. They kill an innocent NPC that's mining. They get a bounty for that. That puts them on the bounty board. It gives me incentive to go hunt them down. NPCs are also doing that. Like, broadly, what this game should be doing is a galactic level simulation, to where it's like there are 3 major factions as well as like different system factions, to where it's like this company owns this star system. So you could move in, let's say that you work for an empire. You could move in and do missions for the empire and take over that system for the empire. I just don't see that having an impact so far. Like, going from beta to where it's like, I believe the simulation was essentially at a standstill till now. I'm not seeing any real dynamic content. I'm sure occasionally a flagship will jump in or something, and I'm sure that's very exciting. But it's not changing anything, really. It's not changing my goals. It's not adjusting me being a neutral faction. It's not. Maybe if I was into it in a different way, that would be very impactful. But as it stands now, it doesn't seem like it does a goddamn thing. I'd like to see that let's say I couldn't go into a system to where it's like I'm hunting a bounty. That's another player, and he goes into a system that's Empire controlled, and he's Empire. What if their security forces were, I don't know, on my ass as soon as I jumped into the system, knowing that I had the bounty out on him, or was chasing that bounty? That would be kind of cool, I guess. If more dynamic, more well written, interesting narrative stories were kind of in place to make me want to take down the Empire, that would be cool. But it's not there, so I don't know. That's about as much as I can say about Elite Dangerous.
Well, I guess last little thing I've been up to a lot lately, since you've been playing a lot of Elite Dangerous, Warlords, Draenor, and stuff like that. I've actually gone back and been playing Saints Row the Third and Saints Row the Fourth, like back to back, like right next to each other. So I'll play a bit of Saints Row the Third, and then I'll play some Saints Row the Fourth, and go back and forth trying to catch up because I want to play the Get Out of Hell expansion that's coming out pretty soon because that looks like a shit ton of fun. And I've actually never beaten the Saints Row the Third yet, which
oh man,
I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why I've never beaten that game.
I'm glad that you're getting around to it at least. That's the Third's incredible. I love that game.
And it's awesome. There's a lot of great customization to it, and it's really cool. I guess it's to go back and forth because originally Saints Row the Fourth started out as an expansion pack. It started as the Enter the Dominatrix expansion pack, if I remember correctly. But then when THQ was starting to go under, they hired what was the guy they hired? I can't remember his name anymore. But they hired
the previous Naughty Dog guy?
Yeah, that guy.
I forget his name, yeah, but I know who you're talking about.
They hired him, and he's like, no, we should make this into a full game. And then THQ went under, and then Deep Silver picked it up, and then they published the game and finished it. And you can definitely see a lot of the Fourth's roots as an expansion pack, since it's still like the same city, and like it's the same kind of engine it's the same engine that they used in the previous game, but with a lot more dynamic lighting, a lot more work to the texture work, and of course superpowers, which is a big part of 4, since everything's taking place in a galactic like simulation where the Saints are being trapped and trying to be controlled by the Zinniacs. And the Zinniacs just the Zinniacs the main enemy, bad guy.
Great bad guy.
Yeah.
Phenomenal bad guy. Yeah, 4 I felt like definitely was going totally fucking crazy. Like 3 was kind of moving in that direction, kind of like following the genesis of that series. It's been super fascinating, like playing the first game, which was I didn't like it that much.
I
to the
think a
second
lot of
game
people
where
like
it's like,
the
I thought
first
that was
one, to be honest. The second one was
really
awesome. Yeah. Like the first one,
I don't know, maybe it's been so long since I played it. Yeah, like the second one I felt like that found its legs and you were essentially playing like a supervillain.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then the third game was just fucking nuts, where it's like they didn't give a shit anymore. And the fourth game, while it does kind of feel like you are retreading old ground, it has enough personality to kind of like, I don't know, carry itself. Like that is a straight comedy game.
Oh god, yes. And it even brings up its roots so many times. Like right now in 4, I'm playing I unlocked the I can't remember her name. Damn it, Shantae. Shantae is the character's name. You unlock Shantae from Saints Row 2, who's a pot smoking drug hippie the whole time, and is like super hardcore. And Shantae, the newer Shantae, is just like, oh my god, why was I ever like this? Jesus Christ! And it just keeps referring to itself of what's happened in previous games. I think that's like the main reason Keith David's in the fucking game, because he's been a character. He was the leader of the Saints in the first game, and then spoiler bonus in the second mission. I mean, the second game, you kill him, and I think he pops up somewhere in the third game, but I'm not sure where.
No, in the third game he doesn't pop up. In the fourth game, it's just kind of like they've. You play like the Julius, the guy that pulled you up in the first game, and then at the very end, as part of like a secret mission in the second game, like you said, you kill Julius.
Yeah.
For the third game, they don't reference him, and then as the fourth, they pull in Keith David, who's a voice actor for Julius, and they reference the fact that he sounds a lot like Julius.
Yes.
Saints Row 4 breaks the fourth wall very frequently.
Yes. Like every 2 fucking seconds.
I thought it was delightful.
Uh, I mean, I'm in love with the game so far. I've been having a great time because I've been also co-oping the game as well with another friend. We've been just going around, just blasting beats and people all the time. I have been progressing for the fourth like way faster than I did with the third, but I think it's because like a lot of the tedium of having to collect money to take over a zone is taken out. You just have to basically do a mini game and then you control like a sector of that part of the area. Like I have about the top left island I control now, basically completely. And that's only with a couple of hours of the game, like maybe like 3, 4, no, probably 5 hours of the game under my belt. Sorry, they keep changing my numbers there, but there is a lot of things that got cut from like 3 to 4. Like the weapon diversity is a little switched up, where basically now instead of having 2, maybe 3 different kinds of like pistol sets, you have one set of pistols, but you can change the skin of them, and then that changes like how they shoot. Like you can have a pistol, like a normal little 9mm tacticals, or the big Desert Eagles, and it doesn't really change how they shoot or anything, but it will change how they appear. So like with the assault rifle, you get like the normal M16 assault rifle, but then you can change the skin for the for an MG, and yet it does change like how much ammo it holds. It doesn't really change like the damage or the speed of the gun or anything like that.
I guess that's because the focus was taken less off of like the weaponry and more on like. I think that's a Crackdown game.
That is a Crackdown game.
I mean, you are just a super powered president going nuts. So it's kind of like weaponry was almost secondary to where you were godlike in that world. It doesn't matter what you're using. You're a devastating force that's flying around, knocking everything out.
And I guess that was one of the big issues with the game too. Is like it has such a diverse like customization thing with like the cars and stuff like that too. But you rarely ever drive the cars. But then a lot of times, me and my buddy are just like, sometimes you just gotta roll up on a mission, and we'll pop into like a super pimped out like Cadillac, and then go on a killing spree.
Yeah. I spent most of the time like just running around the city. I don't think I ever really used a vehicle in that game unless it was like a mission requirement to use a vehicle. Because
movement in the game is so much fun. Like it reminds me of when Crackdown first came out, and like the first Crackdown I thought was fun. I was actually surprised because most people bought first Crackdown for what was the Halo 3 beta? Yeah, the Halo 3 beta back in the day. And they're like, oh wow, this is kind of an actually fun to play game behind this. And it has like the same mechanic in 4 where you have to jump on top of the buildings to get the little like markers so you can increase your superpowers. But yeah. But I feel like the inclusion of running up walls and stuff like that, it gives me more of a feeling of how Prototype played. Which if you haven't played Prototype 1 at all, you should play Prototype 1, because that
I've never played Prototype.
It is a fun game to play. Like you're basically like a super powered like mutant kind of thing that's made out of some weird alien kind of virus. But you have the movement system in the game is so free because you can run up buildings, you can run diagonally on buildings, you can jump everywhere. You have like the super glide and stuff like that, and you also have those super devastating like slam attacks as well. Also, all the enemies are jib based. So you can basically walk in a crowd with these giant arm blades and chop people in little bits into tiny jibs, which is fun. And it's actually part of the game mechanic is you have to kill people and you absorb what's left of them, and that gives you health. Which I guess in the 4, if you get Saints Row 4, if you get the upgrade that pedestrians drop health in backups, then it's kind of like Prototype because you can just kill people for health.
Cause as much destruction as possible.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought the 4 was kind of weird because I mean they just didn't give a shit about game balance. You know, it's just kind of like, you know, you're going to fly into an area to where it's they have those missions where you have to take out like a Zinyak controlled base or area. I mean, you could finish those in 20 seconds, no sweat, unless they spawn one of those big alien guys. I forget their names.
I think they're the Guardians. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's call it that.
Guardian.
I'm pretty sure I'm wrong on that, but let's go with it anyway.
Yeah, unless they spawned in one of those, like they were so fucking fast. Like your character just became so incredibly powerful, and then like halfway through the game, you start to get, I mean, even more abilities to enable you to devastate like large areas. I don't know, that the game was fun. It's just a power trip, but I felt like the first half of that game didn't really have a challenge, but then it's like the second half of that game, it's like I was playing a game with cheats enabled. It was ridiculous. Saints Row 4.
Saints Row,
pretty fucking good game. I haven't played any of the DLC. I really want to.
I have the DLC. I have the Saints Save Christmas, which I tried to get to for Christmas, but then I never got to it.
How was that? Did you like it?
No, I haven't played it yet. That's what I was saying. I wanted to get to that, but I wanted to complete the main game before I do Saints Save Christmas.
Okay.
I'm really excited for Gat Out of Hell, which comes out, I think, later this month. Which that looks really cool, because that actually brings you into like a hell version of Steelport. Like it completely changes the map. I'm not sure how big it is. I think it's smaller than Steelport is. But also there is a vehicle that is a floating recliner chair with machine guns on it. So I want to be a part of that. I want that so bad.
That sounds like something that would be fun to experience. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm out of things to talk about. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty much out of things to talk about. There's a few games to where it's like I've played 10, 15 minutes of it here and there. And there's a lot coming down the pipe that I'm going to get to. Like, I'm nearing the end on Divinity Original Sin. I just started a playthrough of Wasteland 2. Within the next few months, hopefully Pillars of Eternity will be out, so I'll be all over that. But I got nothing else like relevant shit to talk about, you know.
I think I'm starting up Alien Isolation finally. I got a 2DS for Christmas, so I'm trying to figure out what the fuck to buy for that. So hopefully I'll have some 2DS, 3DS knowledge coming down the pipeline that I could talk about. Other than that, it's just like I've been meaning to pick up like Dragon Age and Far Cry 4. But yeah.
Out of the two, I would say Dragon Age.
Well,
that one of the best games this year, or I guess 2014, I should say.
Yeah, this is 2015, motherfucker. We got to look towards the future.
Yeah, it's weird thinking about it. 2015 already. Fuck.
Oh yeah. Well, this is gonna be an eventful year. Hopefully for this podcast.
Is that it?
I think that's it. So.
All right.
I guess we'll signing off.
Later, y'all.